The Pascagoula abductions. The night sky took them. The night of October 11th, 1973 started like any other night for Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker. The two men, co-workers at the local shipyard, had just finished their shift and decided to spend the evening fishing along the banks of Pascagoula River in Mississippi. The air was crisp, the water calm, and the only sounds were the gentle lapping of the river and the occasional chirp of the crickets in the marsh. They weren't looking for trouble. They weren't expecting anything unusual, but something was expecting them. As they sat on the riverbank, their lines dangling lazily in the dark water, a strange humming sound cut through the night. It wasn't coming from the trees or the river. It was coming from above. When they turned their heads, their breath caught in their throats. A large, glowing object hovered silently in the night, just above the water. It was an oval-shaped, pulsating with a bluish-white light, and made no sound except for the eerie hum. Before the men had the chance to run, something even more horrifying happened. A hatch on the craft slid open, and three strange creatures floated towards them. The beings were unlike anything Hickson or Parker had ever seen. They were humanoid but grotesque, rough, wrinkled gray skin like that of an elephant, featureless faces except for the slits where their mouths should be, and their noses, and bizarre mitten-like hands that ended in crab-like pincers. Their legs seemed fused together, like they glided instead of walked. Panic surged through Parker, who froze in place. Hickson tried to scream, but his voice caught in his throat. Then, without warning, the two men felt their bodies go rigid. A wave of paralysis had washed over them, as if some invisible force had seized control. They were lifted into the air, effortlessly, weightlessly, dragged towards the glowing craft, unable to resist. Inside, the nightmare only deepened. The room they were brought to was impossibly bright, the walls smooth and metallic, yet strangely warm to the touch. The air smelled sterile, artificial, like a hospital. Hickson was placed onto a table, still unable to move. His body was restrained, not by straps, but by some unseen force. Above him, a mechanical eye, an orb about the size of a basketball, descended from the ceiling. It moved with a slow, deliberate precision, scanning his body, emitting a faint mechanical clicking sound. He wanted to scream, to fight, but his limbs would not obey. Parker, still conscious, was overwhelmed with terror. His mind seemed to shut down as he watched the creatures prod and examine Hickson. He felt like a caged animal, knowing there was no escape. Then, suddenly, everything went black. The next thing they knew, they were back on the riverbank. The craft was gone. The sky was silent. The only evidence that anything had happened was the lingering bone-deep terror in their chests. Parker collapsed, shaking violently, unable to speak. Hickson sat in a stunned silence, his mind struggling to make sense of what they had just endured. Despite their fear, they knew one thing. They had to tell someone. That night, they drove to the local sheriff's office and poured out their story. The officers listened, skeptical at first, but as the interrogation went on, something unsettling happened. The police left Hickson and Parker alone in the room, secretly recording their conversations. Instead of celebrating a hoax, the tape captured something else. Raw, genuine fear. "Oh my God, is it real?" Parker whispered, his voice quivering. "I just want to die. I just want to die." Hickson's voice was equally unsteady. "They could come back. They could come back for us." For the sheriff's department, it was clear. These men weren't lying. They weren't faking hysteria. Whatever had happened to them had shaken them to their core. Over the years, skeptics would try to dismiss their claims, hallucinations, sleep paralysis, or just an elaborate story gone too far. But Parker and Hickson never changed their account. Even decades later, when Parker finally spoke publicly about it again, his story remained the same. The fear never left him. He often said he never wanted to go public, that the experience had left him traumatized. And as for the creatures, What they were, where they came from, or if they would ever return remains a chilling mystery. The Pascagoula abduction remains one of the most terrifying and unexplained alien encounters ever recorded. And even now, when you stand by the river at night, some say you can still hear that low humming sound in the distance.